To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted. The person who does as he pleases without regard to the consequences likes to think of himself as an aggressive and important person. What he is really doing is just demonstrating his own immaturity. Because when we run roughshod over others or neglect our own plain human obligations, we actually are being childish and are trying to hide from the realities of life. The grown-up person is a genuine person. He is willing to face the facts of life. He renounces sham and pretense and hypocrisy. He is a real thing all the way through and through. He can stand up to life because he always gives more than he takes from it. And he never expects too much. Oh, we like our ruts, good or bad, and it's hard to get out of them. We resent being told we are wrong. We keep repeating the same mistakes. We keep harboring the same prejudices and attitudes, even if we know they are silly or childish. We are stubborn when we ought to be resilient. We make things complicated when we ought to reduce them to their simplest essentials. We need to know that life is too short to bear grudges which ought to be forgiven. Life is too interesting to clutter up with incidentals that should be overlooked and forgotten. Life is too wonderful to be marred by caustic words and bad tempers that should be left behind at the age of discretion. The truth is, our contentment comes from basic rather than marginal things. If we learn this from experience, we have learned a lot. It means the capacity to enjoy the simplest pleasures, the wisdom to live by the plain virtues, the willingness to be guided by ordinary common sense, the ability to judge others generously and graciously. Whatever else we may know, we haven't learned much until we discover that these are among the most important things of life. We can make electronic eyes, but we still can't make a human eye. We can fabricate Earth satellites, but we still can't hang a single star in the sky. Sure, we can make intercontinental missiles, but we still don't know how chlorophyll turns sunlight into the green of the grass. The inner satisfaction and sense of well-being that we call happiness doesn't come in packages, nor does it grow on trees, nor can we find a fresh supply in a whiskey bottle or in a safe deposit box. There's a man in Milwaukee who hands out his business card, which he's fond of handing out, because in the center of the card is just his name. In the upper left-hand corner are the words, "No telephone." The upper right-hand corner reads, "No address." In the lower left-hand corner, it says, "No business." And in the lower right-hand corner, "Retired." But he's far from being retired or being an idler, because he spends all of his life helping people. David Roberts put it this way: when we try to reach happiness on cheap terms, what we get is bound to be cheap. That's why pleasure seekers in any age are always the most bored and dissatisfied people on earth. That is why anyone who aims directly at self-realization turns out to be only a fraction of a man. To be grateful for even a brief share in this never-ending procession of mankind, now this is to add glory and grandeur to our little lives. We're not isolated creatures of our day and generation, pitying our puny strength alone against the primitive forces of the universe. We are the inheritors of all that have gone before, the mighty thoughts of the philosophers, the expanded world of the explorers, the courage of the reformers, the devotion of the saints, the sacrifices of the patriots, and the products of the inventors. W. Somerset Maugham used to keep a cracked tin cup in his fashionable New York apartment. When France fell in 1940, he was evacuated in the last ship that left France. He remembers the sun was hot and the deck was boiling. All passengers received a meager amount of water and food, and his daily ration of water was served to him in this tin cup. Whenever he felt himself getting a bit stuffy and enjoying the good life of food and drink that he takes for granted, he would walk up to the wall, get the tin cup down and drink from it, very slowly. And this would bring him down to earth again. Everyone needs to be brought down to earth again. We're not satisfied with plenty of water that is purified and pumped within easy reach. We want champagne. We have an abundance of vitamin-enriched and fortified bread, but we complain if the toast is burnt. Most of us have 2 good feet, and yet we fuss if we have to walk a few blocks instead of riding in a car with foam, rubber cushions, power steering, and shock absorbers. The fact is that our bodies are overfed and underexercised, our houses are overheated and underventilated, our food is overcooked and underdigested, our lives are overpampered and underdisciplined, and in a generation in which luxuries are considered necessities, we do well to take another look at the things that are really ours. We will find that the things most essential to our well-being are the plain, elemental things in life. These are free, and they're in possession of all of us. And we should be profoundly grateful that this is so. Consider the very air we breathe and upon which life itself depends. Consider the process of growth. Consider the power of reason. Consider the beauty of nature which refreshes the spirit. Consider the capacity of smell and sight. What have we done to earn or deserve all of this? A doctor once said that the average man can get along without his gallbladder, his spleen, his tonsils, his appendix. He can dispense with one of his 2 kidneys, one of his 2 lungs, 2 quarts of blood, 2/5 of his liver, most of his stomach, and half of his brain. And we can still keep on living. But there are those who live and die without ever catching a glimpse of their true nature as human beings upon this earth. For man was made for more than oblivion. He was made to be. to matter, to mean something, something more than a clot of dirt or a blob of ectoplasm. We have within ourselves something vastly bigger than instinct, something more distinctive than mere physical existence. We can think and dream and remember and choose. Something within us tells us that we belong to an order bigger than the animals. We were made for heroism and sacrifice and hope. In essence, we're not of the flesh, but of the spirit. We are born for companionship with the infinite God. All of us, of whatever era, station, or age in life, are the shareholders in this inexhaustible heritage. There have been those through the centuries who have denied this heritage of the human spirit and have tried to violate it, but no generation outlives it, and no person will ever outgrow it. The human mind refuses to be imprisoned by the lies of evil men who would dominate the world by denying the truth. Remember reading in the 19th century, the Russians attempted to abolish the Polish language and literature. And many of us today still remember the book burnings of the Nazis and the attempt of Hitler to conquer the world by the technique of the big lie. And in England, back in the reign of Henry VIII, a law was passed to try to get all people to think alike. It was called an Act for Abolishing Diversity of Opinion. And so it is, in spite of crosses, excommunication, edicts, torture, wars, propaganda, brainwashing, inquisitions, dictators, ignorance, superstition, hierarchies, the human mind lives on and will be satisfied with nothing save the truth. As long as we can hold faith, life remains challenging. And to quit before the race is finished is to dishonor the God who made us and to miss the best that is to be. Life does not belong to us. It does not begin when we are born or end when we die. Life is timeless and ageless. It moves on and on. It's a marvelous and wondrous thing. It is given to us to enjoy and use for a time. It is full to the brim with opportunity and privilege and beauty and challenge. To bring its potential to full fruition is the noblest work of men. General Robert E. Lee went to the christening one day of a friend's child, and Lee was asked by the mother for some words that she might pass on to this child as a guide for the years ahead. "Tell him," said the general, "to deny himself." The desire to have, to possess, to cushion ourselves against all hard knocks has become a national mania. If we are not careful, we will lose one of the most important values of life: the capacity to do without. It could be a great loss, for the values that come from self-denial are much more important than those that come from self-possessions. Or as Henry Thoreau put it, a man is rich in proportion to the number of things which he can afford to let alone. And even Plato said, "I love to walk through the marketplace and see all the things that are on sale. It makes me so happy to see so many things I do not want and do not need." It is in wanting things we cannot have that leads to all kinds of personal tragedy. Our salvation lies not in getting all we want, but in realizing how wonderful it is not to have so much, Not to learn this is to have lived in vain. Because the trouble with so many of us is that we have more than we need already and yet cannot enjoy what we have for wanting more. Some people have a distorted sense of values. If they make $100, they will spend $150. If they make $1,000 a week, they will spend $1,500. They are eternally dissatisfied. They never learn that the quickest way to be unhappy is to have everything that money can buy. Wanting can become a mania that is deadly to the soul. It is often humorous and tragic to see some mature people so taken by false fronts of thin veneer and outward show, which become the conventional and customary thing. True or false, right or wrong, it isn't the length of the car that counts. It's the character of the people in it. It isn't the size of the house that's important. It's the kind of spirit that pervades it. It isn't what part of town you live in that makes the difference. It's the quality of your citizenship. And it isn't how little your pocketbook may be. It's how big your heart is that determines your true worth. We have fortunes in our possession and we think nothing of them. Not a day passes by that we overlook the tremendous wealth that is ours for the taking. Health, friendships, loved ones, freedom, a sound mind, the productive earth, the free air, honest work, the companionship of God, a clear conscience, the stars and the heavens, the chance to live. These are among the things that are ours without a price. Life is so high, you can't get over it. So low, you can't get under it. So wide, you can't get around it. You gotta go through the front door. And so it is with the mature man. He is wary of shortcuts, cushions, sure things, crutches. He accepts the rules and looks for no easy escape. And with the help of God, he walks upright through the front door. He makes no excuses for failure. He blames no one else for his mistakes. And he takes his place as a responsible member of our society. Neither God nor man can hold anything against anyone who does his best. We act our age when we temper our strength with gentleness instead of hiding our weaknesses with hostility. Many of us assume without obvious reasons a hostile attitude towards things in general. We are touchy and overly sensitive and explosive if crossed. We bluster and shout in order to attract attention or to cover up some inner insecurity. Like children, we display our bad temper at the slightest excuse. These are efforts to hide an inner weakness. They lead to cruelty, unkindness, and hate as false expressions of strength. It is pathetic beyond words to see intelligent and healthy people retreat into crabbed and crusty old age. The tongue grows testy, the temper short, and the spirit brittle. O men, Ye who pray, pray for your fellow men whose hearts are hardened. O angels, plead for them, strive for them, for verily if there be a place in all his works where God does not dwell, and where no saving spark of divinity can linger, it must be in the sterile heart of a world-hardened man. To cultivate confidence rather than fear, belief rather than doubt, to look for good rather than evil, to love rather than hate, to forgive rather than cherish resentments, will certainly make us happier and keep us healthier too, and prolong our lives. Among the papers of Marshall Field were found these 12 things to remember: the value of time, the success of perseverance, the pleasure of working, the dignity of simplicity, the worth of character, the power of kindness, the influence of example, the obligation of duty, the wisdom of economy, the virtue of patience, the improvement of talent, and the joy of originating. The next time you find your life boring, try this on for size. You will find then that you have no time nor inclination to spend worrying about other people or criticizing what they do or don't do, because taming ourselves is a full-time job that lasts a lifetime. In the tissue bank at Bethesda, Maryland is one of the major centers for the storing of spare parts of the body. Here, there is a clinical storehouse of human bones, blood vessels, skin, cartilage, heart valves, and other bodily organs. All these are ready for shipment to any hospital all over the world for emergency surgery. It's interesting to note, however, that no spare human tongues are available. And yet, sometimes a brand new clean tongue would mean the difference of saving or ruining many a person. And it could bring happiness to many a life. It looks as if we will have to get along with the tongues that came with us, but thank God that we can purify them with prayer and use them to bless instead of to curse. An old Quaker lady was asked what she used to preserve her youthful appearance, and she said, "I use truth for the lips, prayer for my voice, pity for my eyes, charity for my hands, uprightness for my body, and for my heart, I use love." A person who is clean inside and outside, who neither looks up to the rich nor down to the poor, who can lose without squealing, who can win without bragging, who is too brave to lie, too generous to cheat, and too sensible to loaf, who takes only his share of the world's goods and lets other people have theirs. Now there is a real gentleman. We miss the meaning of life when we try to stop it and hold on to it at any given spot. Just can't be done. This is the cause of much of our insecurity and anxiety. We try to hold on to things that cannot be held. We want to keep our children all the time, and we are lost when death takes a loved one. We resent the infirmities of old age and long for the good old days. We are upset when our regular routine is disturbed. Perhaps the answer lies in the book, The Age of Mountaineering, which was written by James Ramsey Ullman. In it, he wrote, if a mountain is there, climb it. If an ocean is there, cross it. If a disease is there, cure it. If a wrong is there, right it. And on the surface, perhaps, these are the very different things, but in essence, they are identically the same thing. Because all these words and 100 more could be erased and a single word substituted. That word is challenge. If a challenge is there, meet it. It is the very act of meeting it that makes us more than animals, if somewhat less than gods.